you have lots of gaps. You have only gaps in your air defense. Why? Because you don't have enough armament and not enough personnel, trained, experienced, combat-capable, skilled personnel to close all of these gaps. And you cannot, you are such an underdog in terms of firepower that you even if you would have enough in weaponry, you couldn't establish a solid air defense shield over Ukraine. Why? Because the Russians would only have it easier to find and kill it.
Yeah, but sorry, we are destroying a lot of Shaheds, a lot of missiles.
I'm getting there. Please be patient. And explaining what, look, the air warfare is a highly technical issue. You cannot explain to your viewers, oh, we have got five sky shields, now we are safe from Ukrainian missiles. You're not, because the sky shields are covering an area of 3 by 3 kilometers. In Ukraine, as far as I recall, or the last I checked on the map, is 1,500 kilometers wide and 1,000 something kilometers tall. So how do you want to defend all of this with five sky shields? So I'm trying to explain you the complexity of the entire situation. It is highly technical. If you don't understand it, you're never going to comprehend what is going on. So you have a radar system that is the core of your air defense system. This is covering all of the Ukrainian sky. And not only all of the Ukrainian sky, but looking also well into Russian aerospace. No problem about this. But in terms of, a radar network is not the same like air defense network. Air defense network consists of surface-to-air missiles, of long-range surface-to-air missiles, then you have medium-range surface-to-air missiles, then you have short-range air defense systems, ground-based air defense systems. In addition to this onion consisting of so you have long-range, medium-range, short-range. In addition, in front of that long-range, you have airborne interceptors, which is F-16s, Mirages, and then a shorter range, you have helicopters. So this is great. Theoretically fantastic. The problem is you have so few surface-to-air missiles, meanwhile, whether long-range, medium-range, or short-range, that the mass of your surface-to-air missile systems are sitting idle because they do not have the ammunition to continue fighting. Therefore, what your air defense system is doing is to protecting just some 10, 15 specific urban and economic zones in Ukraine. So these 10 or 15 zones, or cities, actually, they are very easy to outflank. Why? Because you cannot move your ground-based air defense system at the speed of not even the UAVs, not to talk about cruise missiles or ballistic missiles or hypersonic missiles. Which in turn means that the Russians have it relatively easy to find out which of your cities is well protected this day and to strike something else. And if nothing else, if they have to strike something that is well protected today, let's say Kryvyi Rih, we have seen this a few days ago, then they have it easy to overpower this air defense system by saturating it with a huge number of UAVs. And as these UAVs approach the city or the target, they combine it with cruise missiles, which are faster than UAVs. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, towards the end of this attack, at the high point of this attack by UAVs and cruise missiles, they combine ballistic missiles. So your air defenses, for example, of Kryvyi Rih, then sit there, shoot at UAVs. Oh, wait, cruise missiles are coming from this direction, ballistic missiles from this direction, and hypersonic missiles from that direction. So now try to defend yourself from this. Mm-hmm. You can't. Something is going to get through, and this is what has happened in Kryvyi Rih, and not only once, but 2 or 3 times the last week or so. So this is just one example. We can repeat this example in Kiev. We can repeat this example. It's not even necessary because the situation further east is only worse, whether it's Poltava or Kramatorsk, not to talk about Kramatorsk, Chernihiv, Sumy, it's everywhere the same. And the further west it goes, it's the same. It's again, you have to keep the mass of your air defense forces busy with protection of Lviv and similar places in the west, because there's also under severe pressure from the Russian airstrikes, UAV strikes, and ballistic missile strikes. So again, ideally, you would have enough firepower and enough security to build actually a wall somewhere behind the front line and say, okay, whatever comes our way, we are shooting it down already here, somewhere along the front line or immediately behind the front line, instead of waiting for all of these hundreds of UAVs, dozens of cruise missiles on top of and then toppled completed by ballistic missiles and hypersonic missiles only when they are already next to us, when they are close to us. So when you talk about gaps, you have nothing but gaps in your air defense force, air defense system, because you're just protecting specific points of interest. In between, there are huge gaps. And then you can see there are several monitoring, let's say, agencies in Ukraine, private agencies, if you like. Private people who are tracking the movement of Russian attack UAVs during the night. And you see them waving along long routes through Ukrainian airspace. What are they doing? They're sending these UAVs into your airspace, and they are mapping the positions of Ukrainian air defenses in this fashion. Because once you detect the approach of dozens of UAVs, you cannot ignore them. You have to power up your radars. The moment you power up your radars, you are exposing your position. The Russians know where your radars are and therefore can assess where your air defenses are. Why is this important? Because after every such engagement, you are moving your radars. You redeploy them into a new position. Sometimes 500 meters, other times 5 or 50 kilometers. But it's enough to move it. And the Russians have already lost the situational awareness. But for the efficiency of their strikes, they have to have full situational awareness. So they are obtaining this situational awareness through mapping the position of your radars, of your air defense systems. This is what is happening every single night over Ukraine. So they are now meandering these UAVs, routing them in between your cities, forcing you to power up your radars, your air defense systems, sometimes also flying the UAVs and cruise missiles around their actual targets. For example, they appear like they are going for Lviv, but turn around and fly to Kiev. And this way, you are always forced to operate, to activate your air defenses. The moment you activate them, the Russians can track their positions. And to constant, persistent tracking of these positions, they know, this regiment and its patriots is in Kiev area, this regiment and its patriots is in Odessa area, this is somewhere else, this Nasam's regiment is here, and so on and so on. They have it perfectly easy. And correspondingly, they can always seek for the weak spots, for points which are not well enough protected. And this is why this air defense system, as it is right now, cannot work. And it's not going to work unless there is a production of some 15,000 interceptor SAMs, missiles, a month in the EU or in Ukraine, and it's not going to work any better unless there is a production of some 50,000 interceptor UAVs in Ukraine and the West. And we are very, very far away from this situation. Even more so because your general staff and your Minister of Defense are still, or at least, I said, I'm not going to attack Fedorov or criticize him, it's too early, but general staff of Ukraine and the Ministry of Defense. So, I know somebody there, not just one person involved. I contact him. Listen, I have here a company from this and that country. They have a very effective design of UAV interceptor, which is itself a UAV. You launch it. It is fast enough to catch a Geran and shoot it down. It would, projected cost is something like $4,000 per round, per intercept. What shall we do? How shall they approach you? Here's the project. PDF. What else do you want? What do you need in order to get in touch with them and to discuss possible production? No response.
Yeah, but Tom.
Absolutely good.
Yeah, Tom. In general, is it theoretically possible to cover huge territory of Ukraine, all territory? Because we are, as you know, the biggest country in Europe.
Yes, it is. Why not?
It's possible,
you build up. Look, theoretically it is possible, but you need the industrial capability to do so. You need the strategy and resulting planning. You need somebody in charge who says, okay, I'm not fighting now an election campaign, but I'm facing a war of extermination. For this, I need production capabilities. For production capabilities, I need workers. I need to train these workers for a schooling system, and I need energy supply. Right now, your glorious president has forgotten to check what are his own aides doing with the fortification of the power supply. And what is the result of this? Power supply is destroyed. So even if you declare a general mobilization, the most you could do now would be to send thousands of workers to start fortifying a destroyed power supply, which is going to take at least 6 to 9 months of extensive help by the West, all provided this West is conscious enough to organize such a help, which it is not after 4 years. It is still not understanding this war. And then to recover the power supply. So you can hope that through the summer, your president might this time not forget about fortifying and recovering the power supply or the power network so that you are better prepared for the next winter. Right now, I don't see this happening, but we are going to see.
Tom, I would like to talk to you about NATO countries, not only about Ukraine. Looking ahead, how could Russia escalate in NATO and under what conditions, in your opinion?
Russia has already escalated its war against NATO. It's just not a classic conventional war in terms of we are now invading with huge armies and
we're talking about hybrid war, yeah.
It is a hybrid war that is already going on. We are talking about hundreds of attacks on different installations around NATO. And if not by Russian forces, and not by Russian intelligence services, then by surrogates or proxies, so-called proxies nowadays. That means they, for example, it's a theory of mine, if you like, but let's say there is a leftist extremist group in Germany. Okay, guys, there comes some very nice, friendly gentleman and tells them, listen, why don't you attack this system in the power supply and then knock out the power supply of large parts of Berlin for Christmas and the New Year. That's how you do it nowadays. And this is what is going on. You have this shadow fleet. Shadow fleet is all the time streaming from the Baltic along Denmark and Germany and UK and France and so on into the Atlantic. From time to time, some of these ships are equipped with UAVs. They launch UAVs. These attack some specific area in Germany. Germans are upset, but nobody is permitted to open fire because you're not opening fire. We are not at war, and therefore this is a civilian airspace. We cannot shoot as we like in the civilian airspace, and so on and so on. This is happening all the time. Somebody 3 years ago has knocked out the major part of the refinery in Schwechat outside of Vienna. Austria was suffering for months from shortages of specific fuels. No, it was just an explosion. We are not at war. It can't be Russians. We are not going to talk about this because this is inconvenient. Besides, our oligarchy is still interested in cooperating with Putin. Therefore, we cannot blame Putin for attacking Austria. This is what is going on. Just ignore the reality. Don't take it seriously. And no, we are not at war. But while Russia is already at war with us. That is a matter of fact. So when you ask how and what to do, well, the West would have to finally get serious about what is it doing. But you cannot expect this from the same president and chancellors who are ignoring the reality for already not only 4 years, but meanwhile it's 12 years since Russian invasion of Ukraine. So what do you expect from the same people to get serious now, to get real now? This is not going to happen anytime soon.
How could Russia use these conditions that have you mentioned about Europe?
No, it's already doing that. It is using them excellently for propaganda purposes, for convincing larger parts of our populations here that Russia is a well-meant country that came under aggression of NATO, that NATO is expanding on its own because for its own interest, not for the interest of some, who cares about some countries that want to join NATO. NATO, that's nothing important, that we are aggressive here in the West, that we are warmongers, or at least ruled by warmongers, that our system is rotten and falling apart, and so on and so on. So this is what is Russia already doing, and highly successful at that. You have entire political parties in Germany, in Austria, in France, in Italy, and so on, who are running election campaigns based on this premise. You have the President of the United States repeating such statements almost word by word. So, I mean, sorry, I don't see the Russians getting even more effective in this regard. You can't get it can't get better from their point of view. We remain disunited. We remain run or administered by incompetent, corrupt idiots. And from Putin's point of view, everything is fine. He can go on like this forever. No problem.